Please repeat word for word. Sukha Uvacha. Sutta Goswami said, Adyartita, thus being petitioned, Tada, at that time, Tasmai, unto him, Stanani, places, Kalaye, to the personality of Kali. Dado gave him permission. Dutam, gambling. Panam, drinking. Striya, illicit association with women. Shuna, animal slaughter. Yatra, wherever. Adharma, sinful activities. Chatur vida, 4 kinds of. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. Please repeat. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So this is a long purport. I'm going to read some sections and then say a few words on it. The basic principles of irreligiosity, such as pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood, counteract the 4 principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. The personality of Kali was given permission to live in 4 places particularly mentioned by the king, namely the place of gambling, the place of prostitution, the place of drinking, and the place of animal slaughter. So here's pointing out the 4 principles of religion are eroded by these 4 irreligious activities. And Kali was given a place, such a place, to reside because he was the personality of Kali. And his service was to bring about the degradation in this age. So he was not allowed to live in Maharaj Parikshit's kingdom. Srila Jiva Goswami directs that drinking against the principles of scriptures, such as the Sotramani Yagya, association with women outside of marriage, and killing animals against the injunctions of scriptures are irreligious. In the Vedas, 2 different types of injunctions are there for the pravritas, or those who are engaged in material enjoyment, and for those nivritas, or those who are liberated from material bondage. The Vedic injunction for the pravritas is to gradually regulate their activities toward the path of liberation. Therefore, for those who are in the lowest stage of ignorance and who indulge in wine, women, and flesh, drinking by performing Sotramani Yagya, association of women by marriage, and flesh eating by sacrifices are sometimes recommended. So here 2 different paths are mentioned. The Pravriti Marg and Nivriti Marg. Pravriti Marg is for the conditioned soul who is inclined towards enjoyment and therefore need to undergo some regulatory activities to become purified from such inclinations. And therefore the scriptures recommend such regulations, whereas those who are on the Nivriti Marg are free from such propensities and are actually not bound by the laws of karma. called liberated from the material bondage, so they're realized souls. So the recommendations in the Vedic literatures are meant for a particular class of men and not for all. Of course, in this day and age, practically all of us require some form of purification. But because they are injunctions of the Vedas for particular types of persons, such activities by the pravritas are not considered adharmas. One man's food may be poison for others. Similarly, what is recommended for those in the mode of ignorance may be poison for those in the mode of goodness. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu therefore affirms that recommendations in the scriptures for a certain class of men are never to be considered adharma or religious. But such activities are factually adharma, and they are never to be encouraged. So here there's a distinction made that following the regulations of the scriptures, although outwardly appearing to be committing sinful activities, but if such irreligious activities are done under the recommendation of the scriptures, such activities are not considered irreligious. But the activities in and of themselves are irreligious activities. You follow? Gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating are irreligious activities. But such activities, when guided by the directions of the scriptures, are not considered adharma, because they're following the regulations. And the purpose, which will be outlined in the next line here, that the recommendation in the scriptures are not meant for the encouragement of such adharma. What is the purpose? So we want to stay focused on what is the principle of following these regulations. And the principle is for regulating the necessary adharma gradually toward the path of dharma. So it is to come to the point of dharma. We have practical experience. Say I want to follow a diet, prescription, or in a disease condition, we may have to follow certain rules and regulations, a certain diet, a certain medicine, and so on. Our natural condition, our dharma, is not to be in a disease condition. But as long as we're in a disease condition, if we continue with activities that further aggravate this condition, overeating, uncleanliness, these are some of the activities that are mentioned that lead to disease, for example. Overeating, uncleanliness, and anxiety. So engaging in activities of uncleanliness and pursuing activities that further create anxieties and overeating, so this will lead to disease. So then, under some regulations, then one can become gradually develop a healthier situation. So following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, it is the duty of all executive heads of states to see that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, are established in the state, and that the principles of irreligion, namely pride, illicit female association or prostitution, intoxication, and falsity, are checked by all means. And to make the best use of a bad bargain, the personality of Kali may be transferred to places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and slaughterhouses, if there are any places like that. It's interesting, Prabhupada mentions it, if there are any places like that. And our modern day society is saturated with places like this. So this is just an indication of the infiltration, the degree of infiltration of Kali. Those who are addicted to these irreligious habits may be regulated by the injunctions of the Scriptures. In no circumstances should it be encouraged by any state. In other words, the state should categorically stop all sorts of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. The state which wants to eradicate corruption by majority may introduce the principles of religion in the following manner. So here, Sri Prabhupada mentions that in other words, the state should categorically stop all sorts of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. But I was just hearing not too long ago about abrupt, just stopping all such activities. Yes, the goal is to stop all such activities, but to put that into practice may not always prove to be the best course of action for everyone. There was a concern that because of for example, now with this virus, that if people were not given access to the liquor stores, this was some comments that were being made, that if they couldn't have access to the liquor store, it would create greater problems because of the degree of addiction to such products. And it could lead to a more severe situation. So they have to figure out some situations there's an in-between. People who are highly addicted to heavy drugs, for example, they just cannot go cold turkey, as they say. They have to be put under surveillance, given a proper environment where they can recuperate, and sometimes given another type of drug, a lesser drug, to get them off of the heavier drugs. Here, Srila Prabhupada is giving some recommendations to help eradicate corruption. This is 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, if not more. Parenthesis, austerity. Even from the economic point of view, such 2 fasting days in a month in a state will save tons of food, and the system will also act very favorably on the general health of the citizens. 2, there must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24
Washington, D.C. North Carolina. Denver.